Well, here we go. Another awesome day. Thank you, Lord. Another glorious opportunity to go and talk with a dear brother in the Lord, Mr. Chad Atkins. Man, I'm telling you, I love this man. He's the senior minister at another church in Titusville called Sun Valley. And I've had a little while to get to know him, and I tell you, he just cracks me up. He's just always finding the silver lining in the challenges, and just really the kind of person that inspires you to get out there and go do something good. You know what I mean? And amen for that. I really just enjoyed this time, and I pray that you're encouraged by the conversation. Thanks for coming by. Let's check it out.
I can follow your lead.
We might both be in trouble then, man.
Talking about my wife repainting the house. I didn't tell you about that, did I?
What's she doing?
Dude, she went to Colorado on vacation.
Yeah.
And then right before she went on vacation, she got this wild hair and said, let's paint the bedroom. I said, all right. So she went out, got the paint. I painted the bedroom. She looked at it and went, oh yeah, this is great. I love it. And then she said, I think this looked good out in the living room. I said, all right. I said, I think it looked good over here. Okay, fine. So she goes to Colorado. I spend the next 5 days by myself in that house painting all that stuff.
Okay.
She comes home from Colorado and goes, I don't like it. I said, what? She goes, I don't like it. I said, you picked the color.
What do you mean? Yeah, I thought this was your idea.
This was your idea. You picked the color. She said, yeah, it doesn't look good out here. And I was like, it will when you get used to it.
Yeah, just give us some time.
Give us some time. She's like, no, I don't like it. She goes, I want to repaint it all. And I'm just like, well, here's the debit card. Go out and paint. Have fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what she's home now. She's painting everything.
Well,
and I'm not into that right now.
Yeah.
I got other things going on.
It's one of those happy life
Yeah,
type things.
just get all over the floor and tell me all about it later. So
wow,
that's the way it goes.
Well, look, man, I wanted to say thanks for having me out at Sun Valley, man. I like coming out here, man, because we talked about this a little earlier. Like it does have that feeling of the church that you remember from when you were a kid, right? And I think sometimes, like I was saying, churches want to contemporize, but they don't really, right? Like they want to be wanted, but they don't want to make the changes, to be desired like that. And but for me, there's a bit of nostalgia coming into it. It's the same with our church at Discovery. Sometimes I definitely get that feel of nostalgia, and I think it's a beautiful building, man. And like I said, I've been missing you guys on the men's breakfast too, man. How's things going at Sun Valley?
Things are going good. Like you said, we've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know that. We've been here since about 1965.
Okay.
And we've had our ups and we've had our downs. Right. But right now we're on one of those upswings. The congregation has, even though we're still small, by a lot of standards, we've got probably 50 people that meet here on a Sunday morning. Yeah, and it's just one of those, everybody comes in here says it feels like family.
Yeah.
And one of the great parts about this place is that because of its size, it's one of those places to where relationships are genuine. It's not like a big church where you're going to go there and slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
Where you're
just not going to slide in and
slide in, slide out.
You're
not going to get in or out of here without a hug or without a handshake or somebody inviting you to lunch or something like that. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. It's just all about those relationships. Like you said, our men's breakfast every Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
I mean, we started that a year ago with me and one other guy, and now we typically have about 10 or 12 people.
Look at that whole side of the
you got that whole side there, and Denny's knows that, hey, they're here, and that's their table.
Man.
So.
What about some of the, you've been here how long now?
I've only been at this place here for just about 2 years.
Yeah.
But I've been in ministry for the last 20 years and spent most, if not all of those, as a youth and family pastor. So did a lot of stuff with teenagers and running all over the place and doing stupid stuff. And, now it's time to kind of, I don't know if you want to call that a demotion or a promotion or whatever, but now it's different role. Different role.
Okay.
Yep.
It's time for a change.
Right. Yeah.
And you're not kidding when you say stupid stuff, man. Because what is that? What's that game that you talk about? The muck ball?
Gunk ball.
Gunk ball.
Gunk ball.
Yeah. Like, break this down. How does it go again? So you got...
Well, gunk ball's a game that I invented probably 20 years ago at Bible camp because it was just so stinking hot.
Yeah.
And you basically take 3 swimming pools, plastic swimming pools, and you put them in a line.
Right.
And and you put plastic or plastic sheeting in between each one of those swimming pools. And in the last 2 pools, it's just soap and water. Yeah. And of course, the plastic in between is just soap. Basically, baby shampoo.
Right.
But in that pool that you start off in is anything you want. It's water, it's food, things like cereal and pizza and burgers or whatever else that was left over from the cafeteria, and ramen noodles just to make it feel nasty.
Yeah.
And kids get in that first pool up to about their ankles, and they got to swat that ball, and they have to run to the second pool, then the third pool, and then back again. And in order to get a point, they have to slide head first into the gunk pool.
The gunk pool.
It's very nasty, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and see, and that it sounds like it, right? But to just to think like, it sounds like I just can't even picture where like, okay, this is what I got to do, and somebody's like, "What'd you do at work this week?" Well, let me tell you, let me tell you about this thing called gunk ball.
Yeah,
right.
It's a fan favorite. I mean, it's had its highs and its lows. There's some kids that just really take to it, and they love it, and they think that's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And then there's kids over there that look at it and go, "I'm going to get sick." Just by looking at that, I've got to get up and leave. I've got to go do something. But more or less, it just turns into a big food fight at the end of the day.
So spent a lot of time in youth ministry, and tell me about that, man. What's it been like in your experience in ministry in general? Because I think it's probably the most unique. I was talking with Mike up there at FCC, and I was like, it's got to be one of the more unique jobs that you as a career. Mm-hmm. I've only been in a short time, and I've seen things that I would never have seen. And so some most good, but most, some just really most, but some less than good. I think that's the best.
That's probably the best way to put it. That's probably the best way to put it.
What has your experience been in ministry, man? I mean.
Well, having grown up in the church and bouncing all over the world because of a military family and so forth, so on, I got into youth ministry for the first time professionally in, I think, 1997.
Okay.
And see, to me, that feels like I'm talking about 5 years ago. But that's what, 20 years ago.
Been a little bit longer than that.
And had lots of youth groups and had lots of good kids and had some kids that just really kind of challenged you in different ways. But it's been, like you said, an overall positive experience to watch these kids grow up in the church. I've had several young men that have come out of my youth programs and have become youth ministers themselves.
Oh, that's got to be cool to see.
It is cool to see. It makes me feel very old.
Yeah,
when I go to a youth rally and I see them there with their wife and their children, and I'm looking at them going, "What year is it?" And I'm just, just trying to figure that out. But it's encouraging to think that you kind of have you had a little bit of something to do with that. Kind of help them do whatever, and I still stay in touch with a lot of them today. Through going to lunch or just on the phone or social media or stuff like that. It's been a good experience.
Man, I think about that. Like, I hadn't thought about it until you were saying it right now. Like, there's been some young fellas at Discovery that, just been like baptized recently that I've been there when I got there. And, that's where I started, was with these boys, and like to see them, to think that they're going from that to maybe perhaps seeing them in youth ministry someday. It's like, man, that does seem like, it would be it'd blow your mind for sure.
And you mentioned the gunk ball a little bit earlier, but I'll go to one of their events and I'll see, well, there's gunk ball. They're gunk ball, and they just look at me and give me that little grin, and I'm like, yours is a lot messier than mine ever was. But it's just neat. You spend time with teenagers going out on boats or going out. We took them on lots of trips up and down to different youth rallies and stuff like that. So all about relationships and using those relationships to just kind of get in and teach them a little bit about Jesus and teach them a little bit about the Bible and help them just kind of get a better bead on the life that they're living and the things they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And so you and I, man, we've had a number of these conversations actually. Like, we've been working pretty consistently with each other, in the ministry. And I got to tell you how grateful I am for that, firstly. But also, there's some things that, we're trying to do, right? So, like, trying to work together to get the youth, because, like, we have, and we're working also with Merritt Island. I'm going to go up there and talk with those guys next. And trying to get them together, and but this was kind of something that you felt like the Lord laid on you, right? And so, could you lay that out? Like,
you mean as far as working?
Yeah,
together?
like working together, and what we're, kind of like how it's going, and where did it start?
Well, obviously there's the prayer that Jesus utters for unity amongst all churches and all believers.
You're talking about John 17?
Yes, I am. And that's one of those that I've always just kind of taken to heart. And it's always one of those kind of things that has mystified me when you look at the number of churches that are around us.
Yeah.
And we certainly, as churches, especially as Christian churches, we have much, much, much more in common than we do the things that separate us.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's mostly geographical, I would think.
Right. So within this, 25, 30-mile stretch, we have a half dozen or so churches, Christian churches lined up here. And having lived here on and off since 1979 or 1980, whatever it is, these churches don't really have a history of interacting with one another.
Yeah.
They just don't. And that just laid heavy on my heart. And I thought the best way to kind of start doing that was to attack the youth side of it, since that's where all of my experience, or a lot of my experience, is from. I've been just seeing how many teenagers we can get to go on trips and come together to do events and activities and just see what becomes of it.
Yeah.
I think we're stronger together than we are apart.
Man, I love that, and that's something that I think of, right? Like a house divided, right? And sometimes it doesn't seem like an apparent like division. It's not like there's this huge foundational crack. The foundation is fine, but like why, we're all one body, right? We're all the temple collectively, and so on and so forth. Then why do we have, any kind of like, why would I not want to be involved with you? Why would you not want to be involved with with Mike, or why would, Mike not want to be involved with Merritt Island, and so I tell you though, because I feel the same way. I didn't have, as much of like an aha moment necessarily. I go around begging you guys for stuff all the time. I'm like, hey, help me with this, that, and so I'm out there just grabbing everything I can, because people say, let me know if you need anything. Like, you better think about it, because I will take advantage of that offer. Like, are you sure? Okay. Well, look, I'm gonna call you. And so that's but you know what, man, God's been so good, because in that time and through these conversations, I've learned a lot from you, like especially about kind of the more active, like getting people in, and what is it, more like outreach. Yeah. Like, man, you seem to be like some kind of outreach savant. You come up with an idea and just make it something that people can become a part of, and it's just like the way that your mind works. I mean, you were telling me about some of the stuff that you've done for fundraisers and getting just activities. I don't even know what to call it really. I think of it like kind of broadly as outreach, but like talking about building houses and
I just call it community service.
Community service, that's what it is, man. And just some of the stuff that you've done that I'm like, man, it wouldn't even cross my mind, right? And I don't know if I should say that or not, but those are the things that, like, that kind of experience, man, if I hadn't had the time and hadn't been blessed with the opportunity to talk with you, I wouldn't even have thought about it.
Well, I appreciate that. A big part of the ministry here at Sun Valley, and I believe it should be, this way with every church, is just, the impact that you have on the community.
What a novel idea for a Christian body.
You don't. I mean, the fact of the matter is, everybody wants your neighbors around you to be good neighbors and to have a relationship with them. And people don't come to church just because the doors are open. They don't. They need to have a relationship with people inside that building, and people outside that building or inside that building need to be willing to go outside that building. Right. And for years, I think we've just been conditioned to just kind of come in and sit down and sing our songs and say a prayer and pat each other on the back, and then, go to Cracker Barrel. All right, done. I did my church thing.
You know what? I didn't know about Cracker Barrel until I got down here.
Oh, you're missing out. You're missing
trying
out.
to get, like, my wife loves chicken and dumplings that they get there. I don't much. Yeah. No, the fried chicken.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Good stuff.
That's the one I could get with the fried chicken, but I'm more inclined to pick up some gummies or something on the way out. Yeah. Then.
So I mean, with that in mind, we do a fall festival here. That it's free to the community, and that's food and rides and everything. And last year, I think, even a small church like this, last year we were only about 25 when we did this. Yeah. But we had about 250 people show up. Yeah. And this church, embraced that and fed them and entertained them and had that, and it was all free.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, we do a lot of bus trips just out and about. We've been to rodeos and restaurants and flea markets.
There's rodeos around here?
Oh, yeah. There's one over in Kissimmee that happens about twice a year. Silver Spurs Rodeo.
You know what, man? I came to Florida from Houston, right?
Really?
And they have a big rodeo out there, right? In the, I don't know if it's the Astros Stadium or something like that.
Astrodome.
And I went there, and I remember I never, like, you know, I don't really get like starstruck or anything like that, you know what I mean? But I go there and I was thinking like, man, I had to take a monorail just to get into the arena or whatever, you know, and then you walk up all these flights of steps, you get in the stands or whatever. And I remember actually feeling a little starstruck because Larry the Cable Guy was like, you know,
he lives right down the road.
Does he?
He lives up here in Sanford.
I didn't know that, but I'm like, he was there, and they were like, Larry the Cable Guy. And I look over, and he was out, and, you know, had to get up, no sleeves or whatever. And I'm not like really familiar with his work. I've seen I remember some of his early stand-up, and I thought, man, this guy's pretty fun. And but then he was there, and I was like, oh, cool. I'm like next to a celebrity. You know what I mean? But then saw like Lady Antebellum and all that, and I was like, it just astonished me though how many people wanted to see other dudes ride animals and tie up other animals. Well, yeah. I was like, maybe it's just I just didn't grow up around it, but I just thought, man, this is wild. It's an event.
Yeah,
people love rodeo.
It's huge. We went over to the Silver Spurs Rodeo, took the whole church over there, and we took a couple smaller children that were in the congregation. You know, I mean, I say smaller; they were probably under the age of 10 or 12. Okay. And at this particular rodeo, they asked, I don't know if they did this or yet, they asked for all the kids in all the stands that were under 10 years old to come out into the arena.
No, they definitely did.
Oh yeah, they brought them all out into the arena. And they lined, and I bet you there had to be hundreds of them. Wow. I mean, they lined them all up on one side of the arena. And then they brought out these calves.
All
right, you know, just the baby cows. They brought these calves. And they brought out like maybe 4 or 5 of them, and they set them on the other side of the arena. And so you got these children on one side, and these calves on the other, and I'm looking at this going, I don't know about this, man. What is getting ready to happen? What is getting ready to happen?
Yeah.
All right. And then all of a sudden they blow a horn, and the kids just start charging towards these calves. And the calves start charging towards these kids. And then it's just big melee out there, and all the kids had to do was touch one of these calves, and they would get a prize.
Wow.
But these calves were going crazy, and it was hilarious, and kids were having the best time.
I would like to be the insurance agent that sold the policy for the rodeo that involved throwing kids in the ring.
We didn't get back to like 1 or 2 in the morning from that trip. Out there watching bull riding and everything else. But
that was here at Sun Valley?
That was in Kissimmee.
But
yeah, the Sun Valley Church went over there. We took our bus over
there.
Now,
you know what? One of your elders, Reggie, man, I could totally see him as enjoying that kind of
he loved
event.
He loved it.
I mean, that seems like that's right up his alley.
He loved it. Yeah. So I mean, that was like one of the first things we did when we got here. Yeah. And so you know, one of the big things about church families is for us anyway is we don't like to just come together on Sunday. You can't know what's going on in somebody's life if you just see them for 45 minutes.
What kind of family member do you know that you only interact with for 40 minutes?
So we're real big on doing, just doing events that bring us together. Yeah. So beyond, above and beyond worship and above and beyond Bible class, we do, like we went to that, you and I did that, what was that, the Valentine's Day party. Remember that 50s party?
Yeah, that was
where
cool.
you and I were up there singing and acting like goobers and having a big time. And we took the church for that, and everybody dressed up in the 50s motif, and Reggie was out there dancing.
He was, I'm telling you what, man. I was thinking like, man, they better be careful.
Yeah, I know. Having a big old time.
That was wild though, man. Yeah, that was fun, man.
Yeah. And that's going to happen again this year.
Yeah.
And then we do our holiday parties that everybody has, that we get going on that.
I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I've been thinking about stealing that idea, especially with the facility we have at Discovery.
Which idea?
The 50s dance idea.
The fact of the matter is, you remember how crowded it was at the last one. Yeah. I don't see any reason why we just couldn't do the whole thing at yours and tell everybody to go there.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
Bring it together because it's, because I thought this is really cool. For one, in that era, is kind of just wholesome. You know what I mean? Like you go into the 60s, you might be on some, but
it's a theme party. I mean, we've done it before where it's the 50s. We've done it before where it was like Hee Haw. I don't know if you're familiar with that old show. Hee Haw. You don't remember Hee Haw? you need to Google that.
It's a whole different culture that
get on Hee Haw. They used to do the Hee Haw honeys and everybody doing oh gosh, I can't even think of the name of the little town now. But they used to do all that stuff. It's neat to watch, and they've done the 70s.
Okay.
You know, where everybody has to dress up kind of in those costumes,
Yeah.
come out and sing those songs. And for some reason, I always get roped into it.
Yeah.
So,
man,
it's always fun.
I'm telling you, man, we think about stealing that idea for real because we got the place, we got this, you know, the sound. We just throw it together.
We start planning it together right now, man. It'd be easy to do.
But yeah, man. Anyway, what else I wanted to ask, right, about your, you know, what's the plan for where you're going at Discovery, or not Discovery, I'm sorry, at the Sun Valley. I know I'm in my mind now thinking about that 50s dance. I'm ready to go right now. But at Sun Valley, right, you guys are trying to, because one of the things that you're talking about, like this getting together, one of the things that one of the ways that you said it to me was like bodybuilding.
Yep.
And I love that. I love that idea, the analogy of talking about we're one body. Well, let's build the body up. And so what are you guys doing kind of like going forward? What's the plan?
Well, right now we are really trying to focus on our youth program.
Yeah.
You know, or our youth programs. So we're working together with you and several other churches in the area that are also trying to, you know, kind of edify each other and build up that youth program. So we're concentrating on, you know, a routine or regular youth events. We got a big trip coming up that's still 6 months out, but it's a big trip. TCPC up in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where we're going to go up to a youth rally that's going to consist of probably about 8,000 teenagers. Yeah. We're going to take a road trip up there and be gone for a weekend. So we're concentrating on that, and we've been still doing the bodybuilding. We did a big 4th of July party here just recently. Everybody was over at the pool and playing around with that. So we're doing, you know, for the last year or so, we've been focusing a lot on kind of the inward stuff, and the outward stuff has been kind of secondary.
Yeah.
So this year we're kind of flipping that and reversing that, and the outward stuff becomes primary, and the inward stuff becomes secondary, if you will. Yeah. So that's kind of the bodybuilding stuff, you know, and it's just and I know you have a lot more experience with this than I do.
What's that?
With the whole physical bodybuilding thing.
I was going to say, hold up now.
But you know, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, when you get in the gym and you're trying to do those kind of things, you're concentrating on you got to concentrate on two things. You're concentrating on what you put into your body on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, the food, the calories, the kind of stuff that you're putting in.
The old adage is you can't outwork a bad diet.
Exactly. And that's exactly true here. So for the last year or so, we've been focusing on what we've been consuming. You know, being that we've been involved in small groups, we've been involved in Bible study, we've been involved in, you know, obviously preaching and inward fellowship. And now that we've got the diet down, we're moving to the outside here to where we're saying, okay, now we kind of have to, you know, gird up our loins, so to speak. And we're going to go out here and we're going to start seeing what we can do outside the community.
Man, can I ask you something that, you know, this is more on a spiritual level, but like I've been thinking about this idea a lot lately where, you know, it's really one of the things that I see as kind of a challenge in ministry is there's this conflict where I want to be like, hey guys, we got to do this, right? We got to do something, right? And then at the same time, when I look in the scripture, with the exception of, and I could be wrong, so help me out here, Chad, but like, I think it's 2 Corinthians 5 where towards the end where Paul is saying, you know, therefore we implore you, right, to be reconciled. But apart from that, it's usually like, hey, here's what the message is. You either get in with it or not. And what I'm saying is, it seems like it should be an intrinsic motivation, right? So I shouldn't be all the time like, you know, okay, just please pray. Come on, just read your Bible. Just, you know, just do this, just do that. You would think that somebody that is a whole new creation, you know, filled with the Holy Spirit, that would be something that happens from the inside out, right? Not so much just outside in, right? And but I'm wondering, like, you know, have you dealt with that in your, like, how do you get around it? Because and I don't mean to say like I plan to change anything and just say, well, if you're not reading, you're not doing it. But rather, like, it's just something that crosses my mind where I'm like, what, you know, am I putting too much effort thinking like what I'm doing and you know, am I asking enough or am I teaching enough or doing whatever? When in reality, there's something that needs to kind of take place kind of behind the scenes before.
Yeah. You know, the philosophy that I have on that is if you walk into any given church anywhere at any time, you're going to run into, you're looking at this whole group of people,
right,
and they're all on different levels of spirituality,
right,
every one of them.
Right.
And to get them all on the same level isn't going to happen until Jesus comes back.
Okay, man.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Now our job is to try and to equip and to give them the tools and give them the resources, point them in the right direction to get there. But to supplement that, and this is part of my ministerial kind of model, if you will, but to supplement that, the other way that I think that is the most effective is getting these people together. Because and we're taught that iron sharpens iron.
Right.
So if somebody's just coming and they're hearing you or they're hearing me and they're being exposed to the word 45 minutes, maybe an hour on a Sunday, I think that's
realistically
effective.
20 minutes worth of paying it.
Right, yeah.
It's tough.
I think that's effective, but I think it's more effective to have these people watching other people and other people that have been in the faith for many, many years and been a Christian or been going to church for many, many years and looking at that and going, you know what? That man or that woman or that marriage looks like it's doing a lot better than mine. So I'm going to just try to take some cues from them. It's like the old thing, and I love this saying. I used to have a shirt that said this. I've shared it with you before. Preach the gospel on one side, and on the back it says, use words if necessary. You know? So, we're supposed to, we want people to yearn for that.
Yeah.
But the only way they yearn for that, I think, is if they physically see it. It's like in my mind, it's like Christmas time. Okay. I can tell my kids, I can hint what I'm going to give them.
Right.
But when they go to the store and they see, oh, Dad, I want that. They're more attracted to what they see than just my words. Does that make any sense?
It does make sense, man. I like that. I'm telling you, man, one of the things that you, and you know what, that reminds me of, I heard Mark say something that it's like you see people that have been, saved for 50 years.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they're 50 years mature in the Lord. Sometimes it means they've repeated the first year 50 times, and I was like, man, that's a thought right there.
Yeah.
But then I just think it's just I like that idea though, because if you can't show it, it's likely because you don't know it. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right.
But I tell you, man, it's always so encouraging because you and Ford are two guys that I look at that are just Christian, men of action, just guerrilla. I want to get out there and get something done, man. Every time I talk to you, you got about 10 or 12 schemes going. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know if I could keep up. It seems like you always got an idea going. You're always working on something. How do you keep the pace up?
I have to give a lot of credit to my wife and my family and the church here because they're a big part of what motivates me. There's no reason, when we look back in the New Testament, and this is another one, just my personal philosophies in my mind. You look back at the New Testament and you watch the New Testament church just explode in growth and maturity. Yeah. Okay. And you see that time and time again. Now we have that exact same formula before us today. And given that premise, there's no reason why the church should not be exploding and growing numerically and spiritually today. Okay. So the only difference between today and a couple thousand years ago, the big variable is people. Oh. We have the same formula. Right. We're operating on the same formula. Right. It's just people. That's it. It's just getting those people motivated. So for me personally, I've committed to this. Yeah. This is something ministry is something that I feel like that I was made to do. It's something that I want to do. Right. It's a passion of mine. I wake up on Sunday morning and that's my favorite day of the week. Yeah, amen to that. Because I get to go in there and spend time with, the church. Yeah. And I get to be encouraged by them. Yeah. And I get to, be just motivated by them. And sometimes they ask me to go to Cracker Barrel and sometimes they don't. But it's all good. The sermon was good. But it's all good. Cracker Barrel it's all good. But it just motivates me because going back to my youth ministry days, there were times when I'd put all these plans together and trips together and I just hang my head and I'd go, this is not working. It's not doing anything. And I'm just thinking, I just need to go flip burgers someplace or do something. And then you fast forward 25 years or whatever, something like that. Yeah. And you see those same kids that were in your class where you were going, this isn't working. And now they're ministers. Yeah. And you got to think, well, it is working. Something did. It's working. Yeah. So my job, as much as, and I really struggle with this, but it's all at the same time I struggle with it. It's also very reassuring to me. My job is not to get results. My job is to plant seeds. Right. Right. And if you can learn to just just in my mind adjust your expectation. And don't get me wrong, I love to see results. Yeah. Everybody loves to see results. I know, right? Yeah. You just want to snap your fingers and there it is. But it's that seed planting. And that's, if you have the patience to see that through it's just as gratifying.
Man, I know we just talked about this too right before we got on. That I was like, I was getting discouraged a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, thinking to myself, like, I'm in prayer, like, Lord, is this really what you want me to do? And then a young man, wants to get baptized and give his life to the Lord, and I'm like, all right, I'm an idiot. I should have just kept going. You know what I mean? Instead of sitting there questioning it, I should have just kept up with it and run the race with perseverance. For crying out loud. But it does get hard sometimes. So let's talk about that though, man. What's like the most, not necessarily the most challenging, but what's the strangest thing that's happened to you? And that's something I've been, because I tried to ask Mike, and I was like, I don't know if he could even say it.
The strangest thing that has happened to me in ministry?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had some comical things that have happened to me. I've had some scary things that have happened to me. There have been times where, God has just shown up and, or has been there, and I've finally recognized that, okay, you have the right of way here, just whatever. As far as strange, I don't know. I mean, there's certainly been a lot of times to where the Lord has given me an unexpected blessing, unexpected growth, unexpected whatever. And I just, times when things just looked like they were falling apart and I was at my wit's end.
Yeah.
And just thinking, that's it, I'm over, I'm done. I am going to go flip burgers.
What was the scary thing?
The scary thing?
Maybe what's the scary, because that's really, I want to hear some of these stories, man. You guys have been doing it. I want to know what's.
One of the scariest things, one of the things that really, really kind of shook my foundation happened in the very first year that I was in youth ministry.
Yeah.
I had been serving as an intern out in Texas. Okay. And had gotten a full-time job offer down here. Right. So I had this little youth group out in Texas that I had to tell them goodbye, and my wife and I came down here. Right. And of course, the church that I was working for at the time was very small, so they didn't have the money to replace me. So the youth group that was there kind of started trickling off to other churches of friends that I knew. Yeah. So my wife and I were down here, and we'd been down here for about 6 or 8 months.
Right.
And I got a call saying that one of the most precious young ladies that had been in my youth group died. And I didn't know anything. And they just said, please, please, please come back for the funeral.
Wow.
So we got in the car and we drove all the way out to Texas all through the night to get there, only to find out that this young little girl, at the time she was 13 years old, was coming back from a very spiritual, very large youth retreat up in the mountains of New Mexico on a school bus. And as the school bus was driving down this 2-lane road out in the middle of the desert, and there's no other cars around, minus one. Another truck was coming the other way. It was pulling one of those big campers, and kids in the bus, you know how they are. Out of nowhere, this wind had just appeared. And the truck that was coming in the opposite direction just crossed the center line, and the only person that was coming was the bus driver.
Wow.
And he ducked, and just in time to save his life, and the camper ripped through the bus and took, I think, 8 or 9 lives, including this young little girl. And it actually, I think it partially decapitated her.
Wow.
I mean, she never saw it coming. Yeah. And the driver, he, as the bus's top of it's ripped off and everything, he pops his head back up and he just hits the brake as hard as he can. And he ends up stopping the bus literally about 3 feet from going over a ravine that was several hundred feet.
My gosh.
And when you're standing there and you're doing that funeral, and I'm still friends with that guy to this day, that bus driver to this day, and he's just standing there looking at his hands because he had to go through all kinds of counseling and everything to deal with that.
Yeah.
But when you deal with something like that in the onset, it really just kind of shakes your foundation and going, really? I mean, there's so many questions that go along with that.
Why does this?
So many questions that go along. And that girl, that her name was Meg. She was positioned to just launch into the world and just be a soldier for Christ, in just an awesome way.
Yeah.
But once again, coming full circle, that, like I said, that happened about 20 years ago. And of course, I was friends with her family and so forth and so on, and went out there and did the funeral, and came back down here afterwards. And for 20 years after that, kind of lost contact with her family.
Yeah.
And then recently, last summer, I was taking my daughter out to Texas because she was going to go out to be a missionary, trained to be a missionary.
I think you were talking about that.
And just through social media, we were kind of advertising the trip, and hey, we're getting ready to do this. That young girl's father, the one that passed away, he contacted me on Facebook.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard from him in 20 years. And he said, "Are you coming through Dallas?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "We want to see you." Wow. And I said, "Okay." So we started going through Dallas, and I ended up having car problems as I approached Dallas. He sat in a Cracker Barrel waiting for me for 3 hours.
Wow.
Not with him, his wife, and their brand new grandchild.
Oh, wow.
And we pulled in there, and they just looked a lot older and a lot more frail. You can imagine what they've been through the last 20 years.
Oh, my goodness.
And all he wanted to do was just thank me for being part of Meg's life, and thank me because I was the only youth pastor that she'd ever known.
Wow.
And thank me for just being involved in that capacity. So, I mean, I know you asked for the scariest thing, but that was the most sombering thing, or one of the most sombering things that ever happened in my youth ministry. And to realize...
How long had you been in the youth ministry when that happened?
Like I said, I had been an intern out at that little church for probably a year, but professionally I had probably been in youth ministry for about 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
But to realize that you just had that much impact on somebody's life just for that quick a time,
wow,
it really just kind of made me redefine, the time that I spent. Yeah, it gives you some perspective on a lot of stuff.
Holy cow. That's heavy, man.
I know.
That is really heavy,
I didn't mean to darken the mood there.
No. But look, that's the thing. Actually, we've got a funeral going on Saturday. And so, I'm thinking that, it's that stuff that, man, Ford told me that his son was volunteering at a VBS. And that youth guy, 36, heart attack.
No
dead,
kidding.
Flat dead. And then they
Here locally?
No. I think he's in maybe Alabama or something like that.
I hadn't heard about any of that.
No. Well, yeah, it was something that his son that lives either in Alabama or one of them lives somewhere up in the Northwest or the Midwest or something like that. And Montana maybe or something. But they said they were doing VBS and his son was there volunteering and the guy just had a heart attack.
No kidding.
And he said he was 36. I was like, man, was he like overweight or what? He said, no, he said he was healthy. I was like, what?
You never know.
It's crazy, right?
You never know.
I think I always think, especially like, cause as when I'm healthy, I think,
I'm good.
Well, you look at the scripture, you're like, live as Christ to die as gain, right? I'm good. I'll let me go home. I've been waiting. But then, when it becomes like a reality, you think about your mortality. You're like, oh, have I done what I should be doing?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a really, it's a sobering thing.
Yeah.
Well, then let's go back. Then you tell me about the most comical thing, because maybe that'd be a better way for us.
Most comical thing. Oh, geez, there's been so many comical things. I think most of my comedy things have probably been just things that I've enjoyed on youth trips with teens. In my youth ministry, we made a big point to just travel. And we had a big bus. I still have a big bus. We'd load up kids and we went as far away from here in Florida, Cocoa, Florida. We went as far west as Lubbock, Texas in that bus, and went as far north, I think, as Cincinnati, Ohio.
Wow.
And, so you got two big kind of spreads there.
Yeah.
And we did that in the 20 years or 15 years that I was at this particular place. We did that numerous times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it wasn't just one time. So we would go to work camps, and we'd go there was one year we took an entire VBS plan and took off and went into the inner city of Cincinnati and was trying to do a VBS for just an inner city thing.
Yeah.
And the area was so bad, and we loved it, but the area was so bad that we were in that the pastor, and I was friends with him, of course, he said, here's the deal. You can do your VBS, but you cannot be here when the sun goes down.
Get out of here.
you got to be gone.
Okay.
And we'd pull up to the church where he was at, and there would literally be drug dealers and prostitutes just on the stoops of the church.
Oh, wow.
And as the bus pulled up, and it's got church stuff all over it, they'd come up and they'd be like, oh, church is here. And they would just like be partying in the Red Sea. They would just leave.
Oh, yeah?
Wouldn't even contest it.
Wow.
But, you asked for like one of the comical things. I don't know what the most comical thing was, but, one of the things I always think about was there was one evening there where we were doing that VBS. And we were starting to pull out of the neighborhood.
Right.
And we'd made a pretty good impact. And, I'd say probably 100 little kids from all over the place, and having a bunch of teenagers there. And as we were pulling out in our big old bus, there was a big, huge, like, I guess, area-wide or block-wide drug bust that just happened, and we got caught up in the middle of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had all these little kids on a bus, and we're trying to take them home, and the bus gets stopped by squad cars and dogs and guns and that kind of stuff.
Would they come on searching?
Oh yeah, they were just like, stop the bus. They stopped it right there, and we're all just kind of like, okay, now what? You know, and we're just kind of sitting there, and they just held the bus there until they were done.
Wow.
But it's just one of those, you know, neat little stories, I guess, that you tell.
Was that the one? Didn't something catch on fire?
Yeah.
Was that the same VBS?
Yeah, we were doing a VBS up there, and it had Paul in prison in chains, and he had this little candle there, and he had a little manuscript, and he'd gotten kind of, I guess, a little bit lazy, and he's trying to talk to the kids, and that manuscript caught fire, and you're just like, oh, jeez, all right, you know, break the chains. I'm Samson now. Here I go. You know, I got to put out the fire. But you know, along the way, you have things that break down, you have things that you just have to compensate for, and you know, I think the biggest thing with youth ministry that I learned throughout those years is, I guess you always just have to you have to adapt on the fly. I mean, you just have to. I can't tell you how many times that I'd be going down the road with 30 or 40 or 50 kids in a bus, and then all of a sudden the bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and you're hundreds of miles away from home. You know, and everybody, chaperones, teens, everything are looking at you and going, okay, now what?
Now what? Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, you know.
We pray.
You know, you're out there fixing a bus, or you're renting cars, or you're getting them to where they need to be, and just all that safety concerns. And so learned a lot there in those years. And I guess it was just, you know, all those things are just life lessons.
It's crazy, man. See, like, to think that that's it is the kind of thing that happens, because it is almost like from a business, it's like a business of being in a family.
Well,
it's a weird setup the way it is in our, like, in America here. You know?
Well, I'll tell you this, and this might discourage you from our Tennessee trip that we're planning.
Okay, great.
But about 4 years ago, we went on this same trip. And they were supposed to, as soon as we got to Gatlinburg in that bus, we'd rented a big old cabin. Yeah. And I mean, it was like a 4 or 5 story cabin out in Gatlinburg. And as soon as we got there and put the bus in, Gatlinburg was hit with the worst snow and ice storm that they had in 30 or 40 years. Yeah. So we walked in the house, and we're up on this hill in this big old bus. Took a little bit of driving and fancy footwork to get that bus up there. Yeah. But we got it up there, and within an hour, that storm hit, and every pipe in the house froze. Everything. Okay. So now we can't get the bus off the hill because it's just one big sheet of ice. Right. We can't get anybody up the hill because, once again, it's one big sheet of ice. Right. We brought a lot of food and everything with us with provisions and everything. But for the entire weekend, I was in a cabin with 30, 40, 45 teenager chaperones. No bathrooms, no showers. That was probably one of the roughest trips we ever took.
Probably, yeah.
But it's also one of the most memorable.
Yeah, I would think.
Because I know we're kind of broadcasting here and everything, but I'll tell you, when there's no bathrooms and there's no showers, and you're there for 2 or 3 days, teenagers tend to get very creative. Oh, yeah? And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that. But creative also means a little disgusting. Yeah. So it has to be like, that has to have been like one of the funkiest. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was horrible. Ugh. But it was memorable. Yeah. So, last thing I want to ask you, man. All right. What advice would you give to somebody? You know, because I don't really know who's gonna listen to slap our gums at each other. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is that if somebody is listening and they think, you know, maybe I was interested in ministry, maybe, or maybe just want some insight into what it's like in the ministry, or even for those people that don't have any intention of getting into ministry as a profession, but just understand that we're all meant to be, you know, in ministry once we decide to follow Christ. What advice would you give? Well, there's so many things that I could say here, but yeah. I mean, it really is. Well, Genesis 1. So many things. I think I would start off by saying, I don't think there's anything, I don't think there's any such thing as part-time ministry. Okay. If you're going to be in ministry, you've got to be all in, because it is all-consuming. Amen. It is all consuming. I can agree. And the other thing that I would caution anybody that's thinking about getting into any ministry is that, as much as I hate to say this, it's just the nature of the beast. It is, you can find it's easy to find yourself in a very fickle position, because the gospel is designed to be offensive on some levels. Yeah. because it asks people to change their lives. It asks people to change their hearts and change their minds. Yeah. And there are people out there who, when they are put, when that's put before them, instead of responding the right way, they respond the wrong way, and they get offended by that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself as a youth pastor or as a preacher being in an awkward spot. Yeah. And sometimes, your livelihood, so to speak, is called into question. If you get enough people, and I'm not saying it happens all the time, but if it happens, it's rare, but it is real. Yeah. So I always tell people they're planning on going into ministry. First of all, feel, number one, make sure you feel called. Yeah. Don't just do it as something to kind of pay the bills, because it's not going to pay the bills. Yeah,
it's not. Somebody was saying that, like, I don't remember the specifics of the conversation, but I was like, look, I just told him, I was like, look, if I was in it for the money, I wouldn't have got into ministry. Right.
Okay. Somebody asked me the other day, asked me what I did for a living, and it's one of my daughter's friends, and their response afterwards was, and they were just totally genuine when they said this. They went, wow, you must have a lot of money. And I said,
in ministry?
Yeah, and I said, do you see the 25-year-old car that I'm driving? Do you
Wait till you hear the backfire.
Do you see my Walmart clothes and things like that? And I said, I said, just out of curiosity, why would you think that I have a lot of money? And she said, well, don't pastors have a lot of money? None that I've met. Yeah. And she said, well, I see them on TV. And I went, well, that's a completely different animal. But it gives you and I the reputation that's what we're at. And then she asked me the question, she goes, I guess the reason why you don't have a lot of money is because you don't own your own church. And just the way she said it, I thought, well, there's only one owner of the church, and I'm certainly not going to try to take it from him. Yeah. But it's just that misconception. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
So going back to the question, I would just tell people, you live your life in a fishbowl. Your family's in a fishbowl. People are always looking at you and saying, hey, I don't like what they're driving. I don't, they went out to eat at this fancy restaurant, or they didn't, or whatever. Yeah. And be called for to be, make sure that you're called to what you're doing, but know that it's going to be a lot of work, and you might need a backup plan from time to time. You might have to divert yourself and go drive a bus or something in order to make things happen.
What's funny is I was talking with Mike yesterday. He said, man, I know a number of guys that got into ministry, got burned out. He went to seminary with. He said, got into ministry, got burned out, and went and sold insurance. I said, well, now you know one. So now you know one that got burned out on insurance and went into ministry. Right. Anyway, I think that's all I had, Chad. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
I'm good.
Man, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Let's put a plug for Sun Valley. What's the service times when you guys?
We meet on Sunday mornings. Worship time is 10 o'clock. Yeah. And we go to Bible class is at 9 o'clock, and it goes till 9:45. Okay. Then worship starts at 10, and we're usually done at around 11:15. We do small groups throughout the week, and you can find us at sunvalley-church.com.
All right, cool. And I'll put that stuff in the description. Do yourself a favor. Check out Sun Valley.
Yes, man.